Daganan kilo betening kom lo moham lo di beta maso sanalom huasa benge kaputo
State Affairs.
State Affairs with Edmond Obio.
Here we go.
State Affairs with Edmond Obio is live. Stay tuned.
I was just going through some of my old writings and I stumbled on this one. It got me excited. Yes, I said excited. Excited not because I don't understand the message. Excited because the message gave a new meaning. And that spurred me to say, perhaps I need to share how I feel with you in a moment like this. What do you think? So in my writing, I was telling a story. While I was going through the writing, I was spurred, I was excited, and I concluded that I should share my feelings with you. How are you? How is your environment? You know, every environment is beautiful. It depends on how we recreate it. Every society has that huge potential for greatness. It's about the power of the mind. So I have titled this discourse, A New Excitement. That's the title of my feeling, A New Excitement. And it came from my editing, my reading of some of my old stories. The story is like this. It's a land of hard-working people. They sweat all day, but their farms are dry from drought. They long for rain as they suffer in hunger. The situation scares the king out of his wits. The elders can no longer motivate their sons and daughters. Mothers have lost the joy of motherhood as they watch their children broken by hardship. As they gnash their teeth in agony, a maiden of the land asks the stars why they cannot call on the clouds to rain for her people to drink. She understands in her father's compound that the times are near. She stands in that compound, reaching for the clouds. This was the story I was reading that motivated me to talk to you at this time. And you talk to me too, through your messages, through your reflections. I want to read what you are saying, what you are thinking. So I'm with my phone here. I want to read your comment because it's part of the excitement. This morning, I talked about shadows of war. United States Israel versus Iran. And here I come again. I want to talk about a new kind of assessment, a new kind of excitement. That is what I want to talk about. Having reflected on this story of the maiden calling on the clouds to come, I began to hear her voice in my head. I began to reflect on the voice I hear and the message that comes with it. The voice is like, what is life without water? You know, the voice comes, where is happiness in the midst of hunger? I keep hearing the voice. How can a people be this good, yet suffer this bad? The voice asks, why do we allow this to continue? The voice is saying we must have to see to the omen and reverse this dryness. The stars must listen to our pleas and shine on the land. The voice says that rain will come. It will come. Let's reflect. Let's reflect. You know, when you say rain will come, what does that mean? Rain will come. Is it positive? Because rain can be flawed. What do you think? It's a new kind of excitement. Rain can be bountiful harvest. Rain can be cold. But yet we say rain will come. What kind of rain? Okay, let's look at rain from the perspective of hope. Rain will come. Everything good will come. From that perspective. But there can be flood of joy, flood of happiness, and flood of excitement. So flood is good, depending on the type of flood. Rain will come. In this context, everything good will come. And that is a hopeful statement. It is based on hope. There are values of hope. Hope is that light in the dark. In Africa, in Nigeria, there are values of hope. Hope is more than just a feeling. Hope is a powerful force. A powerful force that keeps us moving forward, even when the path seems uncertain. In perilous times, hope is the driver. It reminds us that no challenge is permanent and that every sunrise brings a new opportunity. Those who want to create change for any society must first dream of change. Change must reflect in their actions. In that case, they become the embodiment of change. And becoming the embodiment of change cannot attain its values except it is backed by hope. Hope for the common good. Hope teaches us resilience, the courage to rise after every fall. Hope fears perseverance. Perseverance is the strength to keep going when the journey gets tough. Hello. Hope inspires faith, the belief that better days are ahead, even when we can't see them yet. It is the power of the mind. Hey. When we embrace hope, we choose to see possibilities instead of obstacles. What do you see? What's running through your mind at this time? Are you hopeful? What makes you hopeful? Dr. Aki Onigbide examines hope, the values of hope. It is the Aki Onigbide reflection. A new kind of excitement.
What hope does, understanding that the human makeup is not just our physical body, we also have a mental composition. It is the mind that controls most of our activities or inactivity. And therefore, the interface between our mind and our bodies must never be polluted by negative feelings, negative emotions. It must be in such a balance of interface that yet no matter how difficult things are, no matter how discouraging things are, we must always see light. We must always encourage ourselves, to see a brighter day after today.
daga nan kilo pejenin kom lo moham di peja maso sanalom huasa benge kaputo
State Affairs.
State Affairs with Edmond Obino.
When we embrace hope, we choose to see possibilities instead of obstacles. We become bearers of light for others, proving that even in the darkest moment, a single spark of hope can ignite a brighter future. So hold on to hope. Nurture it, share it, and let hope guide you. Because with hope in your heart, there is no limit to what you can overcome and achieve. Keep believing, keep moving. Hope will lead the way to what you can overcome and achieve. Keep believing. Every society must constantly have a new kind of excitement. Excitement that leads to innovation. Excitement that brings progress and lifts members to pinnacles of good health, good education. You know, recently there was a story that made headlines about Aisha Achimugu. At some point, the EFCC declared her wanted. You know, some would ask, was the EFCC overreaching itself, trying to use a sledgehammer to kill an ant? You know, questions will always be raised. So while I was reflecting on Aisha Achimugu, I remembered I came across a song done by Flavor. It was a live performance. I remember Flavor delightfully sang the praises of Aisha Achimugu, and she was on the dance floor. I liked her dance step, her courage on that stage dancing, the way she managed her hands and composed her legs, the rhythm of her body to the sweet songs of Flavor was exciting to watch. I didn't really know her at that point, but for Flavor to have sung her to the point of her showing that huge excitement in her dancing skills told me that, hey, she must be a society lady. But I didn't go beyond that. I just moved on from the video until the story came, Aisha Achimugu. So I began to read about her. But I remember at the time I wrote that Aisha Achimugu, known for grand celebrations and luxury, is now a fugitive. I said at the time that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, had declared her wanted. What were the charges? It was money laundering and criminal conspiracy. She was summoned for questioning, and the EFCC said she chose exile instead. And then the hunt began, but she came home. The case is in court as we speak. She has appeared before the courts. That the EFCC declared her wanted does not mean she's guilty. Time will tell. Achimugu built a life of spectacle from the stories I read about her. At some point, it was like wealth was dripping from her fingers. The world watched, and some watched with envy. But there's always a price for vanity. The law does not dance to the music of extravagance in a society where the law is justice in the true sense of the word. The present Nigeria does not look like that society of true justice. But we can get to the society that justice smiles at the people. Some would say eloquent justice. Yes. So I'm using Aisha as just a point of reflection. The point I really want to delve into is the words of James Allen. James Allen writes that the pleasure seekers, the lovers of excitement, the hunters after novelty, and the victims of impulse and hysterical emotion lack that knowledge of principles that gives balance, stability, and influence. Can we go through that again? James Allen wrote that the pleasure seekers, the lovers of excitement, the hunters after novelty, and the victims of impulse and historical emotion lack that knowledge of principles that gives balance, stability, and influence. So let me break that down. Power without prudence is a house of cards. Look at the Nigerian state. Power without prudence is a house of cards. The wise one knows that appearance must be managed, but excess invites ruin. Fellow countrymen and women, a leader must not be hated, and the leader should understand that ostentation breeds resentment. Luxury without legitimacy is a trap. Wealth without wisdom is a ticking clock. When the music stops, the powerful become powerless. Let's learn. Let's learn. It's a new kind of excitement.
For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue.
Here we go.
State Affairs with Edmond Obilo is live. Stay tuned.
Thank you for joining this broadcast. It is a new kind of excitement. I'd like to read your message, and I would like to hear your voice too. If you feel like calling me, call me on 080 999 18449. You call me on WhatsApp. Let's reflect together. I just talked about James Allen, his admonition, and from that admonition I made some conclusions. Power without prudence is a house of cards. Appearance must be managed, but excess invites ruin. A leader must not be hated, and ostentation breeds resentment. Luxury without legitimacy is a trap. Wealth without wisdom is a ticking clock. When the music stops, the powerful become powerless. Let's learn. Let's learn. James Allen says, the pleasure seekers, the lovers of excitement, the hunters after novelty, and the victims of impulse and historical emotion lack that knowledge of principles that give balance, stability, and influence. Is Nigeria caught in this circle? Are we a people that chase excitement, not excellence? Are we a people that glorify novelty, not necessity? Is our society after spectacle, not substance? In leadership, in governance, in daily life, do we celebrate the shallow and neglect the profound? The music is loud, but the minds are empty. What do you think? The feasts are grand, but the people starve. Is that what you think? The buildings rise, but the nation crumbles. Who said that? Let me bring in Professor Ademola Araoye to be part of this reflection. It's a new kind of excitement. My guest, Professor Ademola Araoye, is the author of the book The Ghettos of Pan-Africanism. Prof, on page 120, you said endemic corruption across Africa is consistent with the eternal struggle between the forces of light and harmony and the forces of darkness and anarchy.
This is based on empirical observations one has made. Not just in Nigeria. I've been around for some time, and I've been in places. Wherever in Africa, wherever you go, there is a clear line between the ruinous elite, however small they are, and the vast majority who are struggling. In some instances, you end up with a civil war.
So who are the forces of light in this case?
The forces of light are the millions of the silent millions who want the pursuit of end up with a civil war.
So who are the forces of light in this case?
The forces of light are the millions of the silent millions who want the pursuit of the public good. Sometimes they are intellectually armed, moral sports, in medicine,
If you want to reflect with me, you can call me on WhatsApp. So the WhatsApp number to call is 080 999 18449. I'm just reflecting. We can reflect together. So the number to call, the WhatsApp number to call is 080 999 18449. I have asked certain questions. Is Nigeria a society chasing excitement, not excellence? Do we glorify novelty, not necessity? Do we hunt after spectacle, not substance? In leadership, in government, and neglect the profound? I hear people say in Nigeria few things inspire as much passion as a grand party. I hear people say weddings are planned with military precision, that burials become festivals, birthdays shut down streets. The energy, time, and money poured into these events are staggering. Hello. But where is this same passion when it comes to education? Where is the rigor when hospitals decay? Why do we not gather with the same excitement to rebuild our schools, invest in technology, or revive agriculture? James Allen warns, the pleasure seekers, the lovers of excitement, the hunters after novelty, and the victims of impulse and historical emotion lack that knowledge of principles that gives balance, stability, and influence to society. Are people obsessed with celebration but indifferent to progress? Are not ready for development? Development is not built on loud music and flowing champagne. It is built on discipline, vision, and sacrifice. What are the consequences of this misplaced energy in a society like ours? You'll find hospitals without doctors, but streets filled with party tents. You will find schools with leaking roofs, but billions spent on flamboyant weddings. A nation that consumes but does not create is one of the outcomes of such a land. You'll find the people distracted by noise while their future crumbles in silence. O people, there must be a shift, a new way of thinking, a new kind of excitement, one rooted in innovation, education, and progress. O people, there must be a shift, a new way of thinking, a new kind of excitement, one rooted in innovation, education, and progress. The joy of seeing a child graduate must come with a thrill of a future of hope. The pride of building a thriving industry must bring us pleasure than an extravagant burial. We need to wake up. The real party is in the advancement of society. That is why Professor Ademola Araoye talks of building a rational society, a new kind of excitement. Can you have the kind of democracy you are talking about in a climate of poor thinking?
Well, if it's a climate of poor thinking, it's most improbable. Because as I said, whether formally or just before we came in, we seem to lack the capacity for rigorous thinking and for rigorous rationality. All over you look around you, it's irrational, it's illogic. And I just gave you a very small example. In a 36-state structure of Nigeria, just about 5 or 6 are physically strong enough to stand on their own. So you ended up with what people call feeding bottle federation. And that same people, the same legislature is in the process of creating 4 new states. How do you justify that? At whose expense? And while they talk of creating 4 new states, at the same time, we are talking of how do we strengthen the constituent units that make the federation. Does it make sense? Irrational.
How do we build that rational society? What do we do?
Well, that rational society is not something that can emerge from the morass that we have here. It will mean the right thinking people, rational men of good intention will have to come together and form a new, if you like, a revolutionary cadre that will challenge the status quo. Because everybody I see within the current status quo has no sense of a future for Africa.
So there is an urgent need for a revolutionary cadre.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A revolutionary imperative, an imperative for revolutionary forces to come together to dislodge the forces of evil that we have currently in charge.
When you talk of these revolutionary forces, are you looking at mental revolution?
It starts with mental revolution because the revolution has to start from the mindset. People have to sit down with the capacity to analyze critically and then elicit from that thinking the radical way forward.
Here we go.
State Affairs with Edmond Obilo is live. Stay tuned.
The Islamic Republic of Iran condemns in the strongest terms the United States' brutal military aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities. It is an outrageous, grave, and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law. The warmongering and lawless administration in Washington is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences and far-reaching implications of its act of aggression. The US military attack on the territorial integrity and national sovereignty of a UN member state carried out in collusion with the genocidal Israeli regime has once again revealed the extent of the United States' hostility towards the peace-seeking people of Iran, who will never compromise over their independence and sovereignty. The Islamic Republic of Iran continues to defend Iran's territory, sovereignty, security, and people by all means necessary against not just US military aggression, but also the reckless and unlawful actions of the Israeli regime. While President Trump was elected on a platform of putting an end to America's costly involvement of forever wars in our part of the world, he has betrayed not only Iran by abusing our commitment to diplomacy, but also deceived his own voters by submitting to the wishes of a wanted war criminal who has grown accustomed to exploiting the lives and wealth of American citizens to further the Israeli regime's objectives.
The call for a new kind of excitement. You heard Professor Ademola Araoye there talking about building a rational society. Before I played an insert of Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister of Iran. We must return to wisdom. Have we been wise? If we've been wise, and we are no longer wise, then we must return to wisdom. I'm looking at Francesco Gucciardini. I'm looking at his writing. He says here, ambition is not a reprehensible quality, nor are ambitious men to be censured if they seek glory through honorable and honest means. He says, in fact, it is they who produce great and excellent works, people of ambition. That's interesting. Francesco Gucciardini. He says ambition is not a reprehensible quality, nor are ambitious men to be censured if they seek glory through honorable and honest means. In fact, it is they who produce great and excellent works. That's deep. What do you think? But as I reflect on those words, it simply means our ambition must come with honor. We do not seek glory through service. No. We seek it through grand parties, fleeting pleasures, and the illusion of power. So our ambition has lost its honor. We do not seek glory through service, not the other way around. We don't want to serve honorably, forgetting that when you serve honorably, you bring honor to yourself. To serve honorably is not to be poor. Those who serve honorably always benefit from the grace and beauty of society. A society of honorable people cannot entertain poverty. These are rules, they are natural rules. As long as our societies continue to work against those natural rules, the consequences will always be obvious. You constantly talk about poverty, corruption, banditry, terrorism. You constantly talk about failed educational infrastructure, a non-working medical system. Those are the consequences of going against natural rule, natural justice. We need a new kind of excitement. We must abandon this empty chase. Deep thinking should replace reckless indulgence. Rationality should replace impulse. The common good must rise above personal greed. True greatness is not in how much we display, but in how much we build. Not in how much we consume, but in how much we create. Not in how much we celebrate, but in how much we serve. A nation does not rise on vanity. It rises on vision. It rises on wisdom. It rises on sacrifice. Awake, O people. Arise and shine. Leave behind the noise and embrace knowledge. Reject the empty thrill and embrace true purpose. This is the only path to redemption. Reflections. Okay. Some comments are coming in. Somebody is commenting on a program I did last week. Isaac Adakaburu, Oil and War. He says, "Hi Edmund, thanks for all you do. As a lover of history, you've become my favorite YouTube channel on all things Nigerian history and politics. I have a suggestion. Please post photos that you or your guests reference from books during your interviews for YouTube audience to view." That would be a lot of photos for a production. Okay, that's why we say sometimes you also buy the book. That's why I say buy the book. Because let's look at Alabi Sama's book. A book is about 700 pages. The number of pictures there, if we decide to snap all the pictures, okay, he said the pictures we talk about. Okay, let's see. Okay, we'll work on that. Another comment reads, thank you for the compliment. Thank you. Kindly be bringing history in its raw form to our doors. Thank you, Alabi Sama, for bringing to rest the lies that General Benjamin Adekunle killed Isaac Jasper Boro. No matter how much hate anyone could have against Boro, no reasonable army commander will kill a valuable resource like Isaac Boro in the middle of the war that nobody knows when it would end. Okay. Thank you for those comments. Thank you for those comments. I'm on YouTube. Let's see. Okay. I want to talk about, I've been playing in SARS on the recent bombing of Iran. In that war, something kept me awake. And it was the action of Mossad. How Israel could just take out the command and leadership of Hamas, Hezbollah, and now they have done it to a country, Iran. It still keeps me awake. How they do it. And one thing is sure is the power of the mind. Their own kind of excitement. Because they do it. They did it. And sometimes I don't understand how Mossad operates. Mossad is the secret intelligence agency of Israel. I'm reflecting, so I reflect to any direction. Because I need to understand why things are the way they are. That is why I reflect. Why the 12-day war lasted? In a brutal violation, Israel targeted one of the buildings of Iran's state TV. Iran's state broadcaster, IRIB, decried the strike as an attempt to silence the voice of truth. But Israel's message was clear. The country's defense minister, Israel Katz, had declared coldly, I quote him, "The Iranian propaganda, an incitement megaphone, is about to disappear." That's what Israel's defense minister said. The Iranian propaganda, an incitement megaphone, is about to disappear. His words were a promise of erasure. Nearby residents were ordered to evacuate as their air itself had turned toxic. The headquarters of Iran's state media stood in the crosshairs, its fate hanging by a thread. Why did Israel strike Iran's state TV? It's a direct attack on Iran's narrative. The state TV is the regime's lifeline, its way of controlling the story. By the attack, Israel is bombing the story from Iran. If Iran's propaganda machine falls, what replaces it? That is the question.
No team has ever worked before, and we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack.
I was talking about something that keeps me awake. It's about Mossad. I'm reflecting on Mossad. On the ground and in the shadows, the network of operatives working for Mossad, Israel's overseas intelligence agency, helped to pinpoint the exact location of key figures in both Iran's military command and Iran's nuclear scientists. Reflect on this. Those killed overnight include the head of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the guardians of the Islamic Revolution that overthrew the Shah's regime in 1979, as well as the head of the mainstreamed armed forces and the head of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Air Force. You know, when Israel made those strikes, I was bothered about the killings, but I was saying, what is the thinking behind the making of the precision instrument used for tracking these men and getting them down? The men that created such technology, what were they thinking? What is their mind like? Because it's the power of the mind. What Mossad did is that it penetrated the very heart of Iran's security establishment, proving that no one there is still safe, including the Ayatollah, if they could get these military leaders with ease. You know, at some point, Donald Trump said, we can see him, we know where the Ayatollah is, but we don't want to take him out. Mossad was reportedly able to launch drones from inside Iran as part of this attack. The primary targets of this whole operation have been the nuclear enrichment facility at Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan. For the Israeli military, the 12-day bombing had been a long time coming. With that kind of reflection, I began to tell myself I need to change the way I read, the kind of books I read. I discovered I have so concentrated in reading certain kinds of books in the last 1 year. So I needed to tweak the kind of books on my table. A book that reflects the general aspects of life. You know, I've been so focused on Nigerian history, politics, the military, the Biafran War. That's not to say I've not been following events around the world, but I've not really treated them on the show. So this recent bombing did something to me. It just reawakened my foreign affairs spirit. I'm a lover of international politics, and that was why I went to study it. I studied it. I am a graduate of international relations. But that was my second degree. My first degree was electrical and electronics engineering. So I got a bachelor's of engineering. But I've always been fascinated about international politics. I read it a lot. So as you reflect on international politics, ask yourself, what kind of books do you read? So I'm going to introduce you to a book, and I would like you to read the book. So the book I'm introducing to you is entitled Kill List. The Kill List by Frederick Forsyth. That's the book I'm introducing to you. I've just talked about how Iran lost its top military officers in the recent strikes. Israel struck dozens of targets, including nuclear facilities, military sites, private residences across Iran, starting on the 13th of June this year, killing a number of senior military commanders in what it called Operation Rising Lion. The Israel attack also targeted a number of other influential figures linked to Iran's nuclear programs, including more than 9 nuclear scientists were all assassinated within a twinkle of an eye. How? So that made me to look for books that explains some of these things. You know, the Western nation is systematic. They plan their things. They are organized. For development to happen, a people must be organized. They must know how to organize their thoughts, how to document their ways, how to interpret data, and use the interpretation to build society. They must be empirical. It is still lacking in this part of the world. The ingredients for development are some of the cheapest, but they are expensive to adopt in Africa. I just talked about organization, organizing data, interpreting data, and using data to plan policies. Asking deep questions about infrastructure, reflecting on the common good. I'm talking about the book, The Q List, written by Frederick Forsyth. This book was written years before United States and Iran began their precision strike to take out their enemies. You know, I think they tested it with Osama bin Laden, but in this case, they were able to track where he was. But America needed to send in the SEAL to make the move. But this time, machines are moving in. Israel used it against Hezbollah, Hamas. So if you read this book by Frederick Forsyth, entitled The Q List, you will discover that the West had been thinking of what is going on. How do we create this? They've thought about it long ago. They've drawn up the framework. They were already working on it. And some of these authors get insights on this project and begin to write about them. And you are reading it as fiction. And the next moment, fiction becomes real because you are seeing it in operation. That is what Frederick Forsyth did with this book. Now let me tell you the story. Frederick Forsyth writes about a world where terrorists hide in plain sight, recruiting, radicalizing, and executing their attacks from the depths of the dark web. So in that kind of society, Forsyth wrote about how to find a ghost. A ghost, in this case, is one preacher. So as you read the book, The Q List, you find yourself moving into the cutting-edge manhunt for the preacher, a jihadist mastermind who broadcasts executions, brainwashes followers online, and vanishes without a trace. That is the story that Frederick Forsyth writes about in the book I am presenting to you. I want you to read the book. So in this book enters Kit Carson. Kit Carson is a battle-hardened Marine officer turned covert operative. He is armed with next-generation tracking technology, the same leather tools used to hunt down Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iranian commanders in real-life strikes. So the point I'm making, they've written about it. They've written about it. They've been working on it. The plan. In this book, Frederick Forsyth describes drones that watch from the sky, algorithms that predict movement, cyber trails that never lie. In this book, as you read it, you will realize that every digital whisper, every financial transaction, every misplaced signals brings Carson closer to his prey, the preacher. It's a book you should read. The book is a new kind of excitement. So, as Carson gets closer to his prey, the radical preacher, he realizes that this preacher in question is no ordinary target. That the radical jihadist that he writes about is a phantom, a manipulator who turns faith into a weapon. And he knows he's been haunted. The jihadist knows he's been haunted. So as the investigator Carson's team closes in, the mission becomes a deadly chess, a chess match across global safe houses and encrypted networks. One wrong move and the hunter becomes the hunted. I'm still reading this book. It's a book you should read. The Kill List. I'm enjoying the book, the writing style of the author. And mind you, this author, Frederick Forsyth, was a BBC journalist that was sent to cover the Nigerian Civil War. While he was reporting the war, he emotionally got involved in the war and began to feel sympathy for the Biafran cause. So he was called back to Britain, and he was told he wasn't going back to Biafra to cover the news for the BBC. He resigned from the BBC and became a freelance journalist and came back to Biafra to tell the story of the war. He wrote Ojukwu's biography, Emeka. He wrote a classical work on the Biafran War. Then later, he drifted into thrillers. You know, Frederick Forsyth thrillers are must read. I've been missing. I've been asking, how come I've not been reading Frederick Forsyth thrillers? You know, you see science fiction. That's why this Kill List is one book that will thrill you if you like thrillers, you know, actions. And you, as you're reading it, you begin to make meanings of events around the world. Who is plotting what? How your digital imprints can be traced. It's like man has no hiding place. And some people are in charge of this technology. They say encrypted. Okay, encrypted. It's encrypted, yes. One wrong move and the hunter becomes the hunted. This book isn't just fiction. It's a book about the future of warfare. It's a book about a world where intelligence isn't just gathered, it is weaponized. where enemies are found not by luck, but by lasers, AI, and relentless precision. If you have followed the real-life takedowns of leaders of Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, if you have wondered how the invisible are found and stopped, this is the story that pulls back the curtain. The hunt is on. Will you follow the trail? Jump into the kill list before the next name is ordered. To order the book, visit udarabooks.com. udarabooks.com. U-D-A-R-A, Udara. udarabooks.com. udarabooks.com. I would like to hear from you. Or if you just want to listen to me, that's good. But I also like to hear from you. If you want to share your thought with me, you can call me on WhatsApp 080 18449. A new kind of excitement. You can join my reflections. The reflections of Edmond Opilo. What should I talk about again? Israel-Iran? Yes. Israel-Iran is there. I want to hear the voice of Iran's foreign minister. I also want to hear the voice of Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. Israel and U.S. blue diplomacy, he said. U.S. bomb UN Charter, NPT, and international law. He says Iran has done nothing wrong. Why are they bullying Iran? Is the power of third, okay? I have a caller here.
Hello.
Hello.
Mr. Bilo, good evening. This is Dr. Sawaru from Benin City.
I greet you, Dr. Sawaru.
Thank you. I just spoke to my beloved Professor Nodimi a while ago. I was keen on knowing from his own side.
Hello. I hope you know.
done.
I hope you know I'm on radio. I'm broadcasting at this time. Okay.
Sorry, then.
I'll call you back.
Talk?
I'll call you back. I'm on radio
Okay.
now. I'm talking.
Okay,
You are even live. They are listening to you. I thought you were just a caller on the show.
No. I'm not following. Sorry.
All right. I'll call you back.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. I can see some messages here. Okay. Somebody's saying my contribution to today's discourse. America's top general says strike on Iran's nuclear bunker. was 15 years. Okay, he wrote an article and did a YouTube video. It's about the power of the mind. Okay. I want to look at this aspect of life. I've talked about the pursuit of novelty. I want to look at the mind. The mind. The engine of development, the mind. Every war starts from the mind. Every innovation starts from the mind. Great minds throughout history have recognized the limitless potential of human thought. Great minds throughout history have recognized the limitless potential of human thought. Albert Einstein once said imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination is more important than knowledge. How? Perhaps they are making the point that knowledge is limited to what we already know. But imagination opens door to what could be. Do you have moments of solitude? Do you have moments of solitude? Moments of reflection? The greatest innovations, electricity, the internet, space travel, all started as ideas in someone's mind before becoming reality. Steve Jobs, the visionary behind Apple, echoed this when he said that the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. I love this. The people who are crazy I love this. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Progress do not happen by accident. It happens because people dare to think differently. Progress do not happen by accident. It happens because people dare to think differently. The power of the mind. Aki Onigbinde will join us in this reflection. You just mentioned the mind. And it reminds me of Churchill's statement that the empires of the future are the empires of the mind. For you to build a great state, you must first dream it. And to dream it is a function of the mind. Is that not so?
Absolutely so. Absolutely. You can't be more correct. The realities that we confront, whether negative or, first exist in the mind of people. Even people that commit crime. a lot of times it's when they lie down on their bed that they try to figure out. And those people, that think of great progress for society, for themselves, it all starts, from their minds. Therefore, even the scripture teaches us that we should guard our mind with all diligence, because out of it proceeds all the issues of life. Mind is an extremely powerful, gift of God that enables us to envision, to translate our physical abilities, our physical resources in the world into what becomes, of benefit, to all of us. Empires of the future indeed are empires of the mind.
State Affairs.
State Affairs with Edmond Obino.
I want to read from this book. I have a very big book in front of me entitled Mind is the Master. It's the collection of the works of J. Allen. So let's read together. This article is entitled The Word, a Reflex of Mental States. James Allen says, I'm reading now, your own thoughts, desires, and aspirations comprise your word. And to you, all that there is in the universe of beauty and joy and bliss, or of ugliness and sorrow and pain, is contained within yourself. Now this work was written more than 100 years ago, so the English is different from the one we speak now, but they make the same meaning. He says your own thoughts, desires, and aspirations comprise your word. That means you are what you think. You are what you think. It says, and to you, all that there is in the universe of beauty and joy and bliss, or of ugliness and sorrow and pain, is contained within yourself. The point James Allen makes here is whether you feel beauty, joy, or ugliness, it is the content of your mind. You can choose to be happy even when things are hard. It's about you mastering your mind. J. Allen continues. He says, by your own thoughts, you make or mar your life, your world, your universe. Build mind, shape itself. I've just read the words of wisdom to you from the classical works of James Allen. I need to share this literature with you. He says, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. It is founded on our thoughts. It is made up of our thoughts. Thus said Bodham, and it therefore follows that if a man is happy, it is because he dwells in happy thoughts. If miserable, because he dwells in despondent and debilitating thoughts. Whether one be fearful or fearless, foolish or wise, troubled or serene, within that soul lies the cause of its own state or state, and never without. Hey, where's my note? Yes, I have a note here. Some lines. I take notes whenever I read. So I have them from there I'm inspired to also jot down my thoughts, my views of life. And I'm ready to share some inspired to also jot down my thoughts, my views of life. And I'm ready to share some sense that it reaches the people. Sense that it reaches the people. Sense that it reaches where we cannot afford to claim wisdom. Where we cannot afford to claim wisdom. That our countries in this to ask for understanding, to ask for understanding. After your graduation from the university, you have not been able to create anything to keep you going. You need to defeat that ignorance that has kept you on the ground, making you jobless and frustrated. So you need to seek understanding to rewire your mind, and then you will lift yourself. You become a society builder. You become that influence that will lead society to progress. What I see is that many of us have remained slave to a system we ought to redeem. Okay, that's the way society is. God day. Refuse to remain a slave to a system you ought to redeem. Seek understanding above possession. Seek understanding. Societies that seek understanding are societies that become innovative. They solve their problems and they see future problems and they begin to think of how to solve them. That is why they are innovative. That is why there have been scientific revolutions. They seek understandings. That is why their educational system has that upper standard that gives progress to society. That is why you want to run to their universities, because they created those institutions to seek understanding. So when they say the power of thought, it's about ruling yourself. It's about understanding your society. Let me share more with you. Avoid noise. We are now building societies that are so noisy. We are drenched in noise. Noise of religion. Avoid noise. Mindset determines success. Henry Ford, the pioneer of the automobile industry, said that whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. This simple statement reveals a deep truth. Development begins in the mind. A person or nation that believes in progress will find ways to achieve it, while one that doubts itself will remain stagnant. Let me share this story with you. I will come back to my personal notes. Let me share this story. It's a story in James Allen, in James Allen's work. I like reading James Allen. He's so deep. Look at what he said here. I know two men who at an early age lost the hard-earned savings of years. One was very deeply troubled and gave way to chagrin, worry, and despondency. The other, on reading in his morning paper that the bank in which his money was deposited had hopelessly failed, and that he had lost all quietly, quietly and firmly remarked, "Well, it is gone." And troubly and firmly remarked, "It is gone." Get back. But James Allen continues. So the one that said hard work will went to work with renewed vigor and rapidly became prosperous, while the former man continues to mourn the loss of his money in the bank and to grumble at his bad luck. He remained the sport and tool of adverse circumstances. In reality, of his own weak and slavish thoughts. The loss of money was a cause to the one because he clothed the event with dark and dreary thoughts. It was a blessing to the other because he threw around it thoughts of strength, of hope, and renewed endeavor. I don't know where you can find this book. It's a big book. I used to have about 50 copies. I gave them all out because I wanted to share the wisdom of James Allen with people. It's 866 pages, the collection of all his works. I wish I can get more copies. Anyway, I'll look for. So, The Power of the Mind. South Korea's transformation from a war-torn country in the 1950s to a technological giant today is a proof of the power of the mind. The nation's determination, education, hard work, and innovation turned our struggling economy into a global powerhouse. The future belongs to thinkers. The future belongs to thinkers. It's about a new kind of excitement. So take the lessons of the night home. In today's fast-changing world, physical strength, natural resources matter less than creativity and intelligence. Artificial intelligence, renewable energy, and space exploration are the new frontiers, and they are conquered by minds, not muscle. Elon Musk, the entrepreneur behind Tesla and SpaceX, once said that the future of humanity, so Churchill was right, the future belongs to those who master the power of thought, whether as individuals or nations. Our greatest asset is not what we have, but what we can imagine and create. Thank you for being part of my reflections. Thank you. I wish you well.